Alright guys, welcome to the Octagon Oracle Fight Night Medić versus Rodriguez full card breakdown. How you guys doing? So, one issue with this card, as per the UFC website, is that they haven't updated like half of these fights. So some are missing, some have different opponents, and so on. I'll just correct what you're seeing as we're going, but the actual stats and stuff on the page is not going to be accurate, to say the least. What do I think of Pernis? I think he should win the debut against Hooker. I'm not sure how far he'll get after that. We kind of need to see how he performs against Hooker. Like, if he knocks out Hooker with ease, okay, well, that will say something. If not, then he might be in that, like, 10 to 15 range. Thoughts on Amazov versus Morales versus Buckley. So from what I know, Amazov versus Morales isn't confirmed or anything. But if it happens, I will pick Morales. Malott versus Buckley, it's kind of 50-50 in my head. I'm probably mildly leaning Malott because he is on the more technical side, even if he moves at the pace of a regional snail. We're so ready for the Tafik Bumayev slender class. Definitely coming, don't worry. Thoughts on the Smith situation? I mean, I don't really know what happened yet. Obviously, I reposted the thing, but like I have no idea what he actually did, so we'll have to find out. 330 is the worst UFC card since UFC 302. I think they're going to add more to it, but I do agree. Saw reports that Morales is only going to be the backup for the Islam fight, which is why he posted the date on Instagram. It's kind of weird to post the date on Instagram for weighing in his backup, but fair. Amazon or JDM? Probably Amazon, to be honest. Hey, it's my boy. Hey, how are you doing? Imagine Ian Gary as a parent telling stories our parents said about climb mountain every day to get to school, but instead it's about him going up a regular hill and crying about it. Sounds about right. Buckley showed good takedown defense during the last 2 rounds against Usman. I don't know what happened with Brady. I mean, more so Usman gassed out than Brady all of a sudden got, rather than Buckley all of a sudden got good takedown defense. Did you see Fight Lab say Michael Chandler beats BSD? I did not see that, but I can't say I'm surprised. I bet he did that to fit in with the I'm struggling after fighting people. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see what it is. Morales going to rematch Brady to beat him in his hometown chase. I think Morales is a nightmare matchup for Amazov. Yeah, I mean, his takedown defense hasn't been crazy tested, but I do think he can kind of replicate what he did against Brady. He replied to a comment saying he had a fight booked, maybe announced at 3:30. Maybe. I mean, it's very possible. How does it feel to know everybody thinks Klein is great now and it's not just you? Well, luckily I have the evidence that I was like the first there, but it's vindicating. Thoughts on Usman Nurmagomedov's next fight? I mean, do we know what it is? I mean, honestly, in PFL, it's like they're all terrible anyway for the most part. So, my lab's gonna confidently pick Chunko to beat Topuria now, probably. I don't even know why people are talking about that, but it just shows how like insanely casual most of the MMA community is. Morales or JDM? At this point, it's so hard to pick JDM at the top levels. Like, I had faith in him for a while, but I don't know. It just the last 2 fights were so disappointing in how he performed. What's the line for Klein to be champ end of year? I'm not sure, but I assume it's not that high because it should be pretty favored. I think Morales is still the most overrated fighter right now. His striking is still goofy. I mean, goofy striking can work. I know what you're saying, but we'll have to see. Chanko versus Sadikov. That's an interesting one because beating Sadikov, the best way is just to put him away. And Chanko's not going to do that. But obviously Chanko is like quote unquote better for sure. So it's really just a Chanko 30-27 or like Sadikov is getting beat up the whole fight and then just randomly kills him. Do you think Rufi is still a bit of a fraud? Not really. I think he has definitive weaknesses, but I don't think he's a fraud. Chanko by third leg TKO valid. We are all chinning the legs. Fair. I was watching Ilya versus Justin. Ilya's so bad in transitions. I don't think Ilya's bad in transitions. I think he just fought so arrogant and stupid that it looked like it. I hate to see Robertson and Klein keeping... Robertson and Dern keeping Klein's belt for him. Such a pointless fight. Valid. Chanko versus Green. That's an interesting one. I might have to pick Chanko there just because Green can get put out by a gust of air. Gamer versus Smoker. Who wins? Who's Smoker? Thoughts on that, Gene? I think he's pretty good. It's hard to know how good because like level and comp in PFL isn't great, but I also didn't see the most recent fight, and I heard people say it was not good, so I'm not positive. Hey Urkel. Hey, I have no idea how to say her name, sorry. Warriors so watch, let's give them to you should really test them for science, oh god. Ludwig Klein is the real Chanko. I agree there, yeah. Alright, I will start the breakdown. And I'll put out the polls for the ones that matters, which is probably going to be like 3 fights on here because they're mostly debuts and most of them are useless debuts. Hey, Dr. House, am I? That's a good point. Archie saying, I have no idea how Chanko's opponent continued after the eye poke, one of the most brutal I've seen. He may have been fighting with one eye. It's very possible given that he just did nothing the entire fight. I mean, either he just chose to do nothing or he couldn't see. So I don't know which it is, but we'll get to that later. Alright. Starting with Leka, I don't know how to say his first name. It's not Max Jimenez. UFC stuff is messed up, so my graphics got messed up. But it's his name is Popik. So for context, okay, we'll just start with Leka actually. Leka's kind of well-rounded. He does seem to have more of a striking background, but he's actually done a lot of grappling recently. He throws out some calf kicks and keeps at range, then tends to just commit to the 1-2. He mainly uses throws if he's trying to get the fight to the ground, and on the ground he tries to use ground and pound to open up submissions. He is very easy to pressure backwards though, and hasn't shown the greatest takedown defense. Popik is actually a light heavyweight, just fighting at heavyweight on short notice because they needed someone after Jimenez pulled out. He has the most annoying, boring style you will see in your life. Like, he will make MVP look entertaining. I wish I was joking. I hate the fact that they signed him because it's actually absurd. He literally will just stand 5 feet away from his opponent and feint. He will do absolutely nothing until they overextend. If they do come close but don't fully engage, he'll throw a few kicks out. Otherwise, he will just look to counter and do nothing else. He'll take like opportunistic takedowns as well if you like really overextend. But it's just painfully boring. And like, this is what you need the yellow cards for in this sport, because fighters like this are actually a scourge on the sport as a whole. Unfortunately, I actually think that Popik is the more technical fighter here. And I think that like heavyweights are probably just going to waddle into his range and get countered. So I could actually see Popik finding a finish here just because Leka is not like, doesn't have light heavyweight skill to say the least. So maybe Leka will be able to just like use the additional weight and throw him to the ground. That's a very real possibility here. But unfortunately, I think Popek's going to do absolutely nothing until Leka overextends badly, and then he'll find a TKO. So I'm going to pick Popek by TKO, and I absolutely hate that fact, and I kind of hope I'm wrong, so they immediately cut him. All right, moving on to Nina Milosevic versus Haley Cohen. So starting with, I lied. We're going to go back a fight because the UFC still hasn't added the fact that there's a fight in between these two. So we'll get to this fight in a second. The fight in between the two is Luciano versus Spasic. Spasic is, of course, another debut from this region. So starting with Luciano. Luciano is a technical kickboxer, even though she is pretty well-rounded now. She's on the longer side for the weight class, so she tends to just defend by fading out of range. She throws a variety of kicks, but a lot of calf kicks and side kicks. With punches, she's mainly just using jabs and crosses, but she will counter with the lead hook sometimes if her opponent overextends. She does have solid takedown defense and scrambling, but if you can get her fully on her back, she will have a bit of trouble building the position back up from there. She has started to introduce her own takedowns as well, and she's mainly just going to find the back and get the submission from there. Spasic is mainly a boxer, but she has technically competed in kickboxing and Muay Thai. She throws a few calf kicks on the outside, but she's mainly trying to get the timing with her jab. She will enter with the 1-2, and later in the fight, she'll add in other combinations. She doesn't really have much nuance to her game. She's fought very low-quality competition. She'll throw knees in the clinch. She can be a little bit susceptible to kicks in wrestling, though, just because she doesn't have an educated way of entering. She will just waddle in with the 1-2 and hope that she can land it. It's really hard to know where Spasic is at because the quality of competition has been so low, and the one reasonable fighter she fought just won with ease. So I am going to pick Luciano. I'm actually going to pick Luciano by submission because I don't think Spasic has a developed enough ground game, and Luciano has seemed to be transitioning to using her ground game to threaten to finish the fight more than her striking. So I think Luciano is going to be able to pick at her with the kicks at range until Spasic has to make a mistake and enter badly. Luciano will get the takedown, eventually a sub. But it's not a great fight. I feel like I know they want to highlight fighters from this region, but there's got to be better fighters than they're highlighting because these fighters, I mean, some of them are good, and we'll get to that, but a lot of them are just either really boring or really low level. It's very strange. Anyways, back on to Nina versus Haley Cohen. So, starting with Cohen. Cohen is a wrestler. On the feet, she's going to stay pretty simple with the 1-2s and then throw very predictable round kick into spinning back kick combinations. She will just do this multiple times and is the most projected combo you will see in your life with kicks. Generally, she wants to just blitz in and push you back to the fence and then use her strength to grind to a takedown from there. On the ground, she'll open up with some ground and pound, but she's not really going to chase submissions. She also just doesn't have defense whatsoever. Moving on to Nina. Nina is mainly a striker, though she does have some creative grappling. She will throw out the jab a lot. She'll use that to get her timing with the overhand. She will just blast the overhand repetitively once she has her range. In the clinch, she'll look for the tie plum and just land knees from there. She doesn't shoot takedowns much herself, but if her opponent does, she will look for creative transitions and submissions on the ground. She has had a bit of trouble dealing with more chaotic opponents in the past because she seems to need to be measured even though she is a more violent fighter. I think Cohen just makes way too many mistakes, and this is not a hot take since Nina's a massive favorite. Nina will probably land something at some points, and I think Cohen's going to panic shoot. Nina seems to like finishing fights with submissions. I don't really know why, to be honest, but I think she can get it done here. Cohen has been submitted before. I think Nina's going to eventually land the overhand, hurt Cohen. Cohen's going to shoot. Nina will jump armbar or something like that and probably finish that. So yeah, Nina by submission. All right, moving on to Artur Betzky versus Kyle Prepolek. I'll put up a poll for this one since at least everyone knows who these fighters are. What would you change in order to make finish more prominent? Get rid of the win bonus completely. I don't think there should be any win bonus, just make finish bonuses. Crazy how 8 fighters on this card are making their UFC debut. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Hey, Elia. Oracle turning heel today. Yeah, this card is doing things to me. Love Rebechki, but I'm low-key worried. Fair. Crazy how Rebechki is such a huge favorite when he's 0-3 and super low fight IQ. I get what you mean. 76% for Rebechki right now. I'm assuming it'll end around that. Preplex should have been Dober. He got screwed. I can't beat Rebechki of how low his fight IQ is. I agree with you on the Dober thing. He definitely got screwed there. All right, 74% for Rebechki. So starting with Rebechki. Rebechki is an aggressive finisher. On the feet, he uses his jab and inside calf kicks at range. When he enters, it's usually with the overhand. He has a tiny reach for the weight class, so he just needs to get in close as possible. He is a bit of a brawler, and he is definitely very hittable. When he shoots, it's mainly on opportunistic double legs. On the ground, he does a little bit of damage and then tends to chase submissions from there. Most of his game revolves around pressuring nonstop. He kind of forces his opponents to make mistakes over the course of the fight. Prepelec is a powerful striker. He keeps things pretty short and simple, but he has finishing power on pretty much everything he does throw. He starts off with a lot of 1-2s. Later in fights, he starts throwing in more overhands and rear hand uppercuts. He will kick a lot with both legs, which makes them harder to see than most kickers in general. He never really throws longer combinations though, and everything he throws is a little bit stiff. He never really got fluidity into his game. His defense is his biggest issue. He's on the slower side and he keeps his hands down, so he kind of just gets hit a lot. On the ground, he does not really have much at all, to be honest. He can kind of survive for a bit, but he doesn't really build up position or anything like that. So a lot of people are looking at the Prepelec pick here, and I picked Prepelec against Dober, so I think a lot of people assumed I was going to pick him against Rebechki. But the reality is that Prepelec has basically no takedown defense. So the pathway for Prepelec to win here is basically like early head kick or time an uppercut when Rebechki enters. Because otherwise Rebechki is just going to pressure forwards with the overhand, which is going to take away Prepelec's kicking ability as he starts getting pressured backwards. And then once he's closer to the fence, Rebechki can just shoot the double leg, get him down, and probably sub him pretty quickly, to be honest. I like Prepelec. Part of me hopes that he proves me wrong here because, as you guys are saying, he did get very much screwed in the Dober fight. He would have won that fight if Dober didn't get away with fouling him like that. But yeah, so I'm going to pick Rebechki by sub, and I honestly don't think it's going to take very long here because Prepelec's ground game is really not good. Who did Prepelec get taken down by? Everyone. Pretty much everyone he fought. All right, moving on to Denis Bazukia versus Bogdan Grad. I'll put up a poll for this one. All right, poll is live. And at least Abu Dhabi only sucked on paper. It's had some pretty fun stuff, even a good heavyweight fight, which is insane. Yeah, I get what you mean. %87% for Grad, that's interesting. Watch this fight actually go the distance. Oh, I think this fight is going to go the distance. I will get to that though. Sokia coming back this soon is insane. Yeah, it kind of is. All right. Would the Hill that beat Glover have a good chance against Hamzat? I mean, yeah, Hill has a good chance against Hamzat just purely because he's a very good anti-grappler. Like, as a whole, Hill is not a very good fighter, but he's a very good anti-grappler. So, he would have a solid chance. All right. I'll end the poll here at 82% for Grad. All right. Starting with Bogdan Grad. He is a very high-pressure fighter. He is not the most technical realistically. He is very hittable, and he can be reversed at pretty much any time. His defense is mainly just keeping an extended high guard out. He throws a lot of looping shots. He will just blast overhands and hooks repetitively. If he can get you down to the mat, he will try to break you. It's nothing really crazy technical. When he shoots takedowns, he usually starts on a lot of double legs, but then he just keeps chaining nonstop until he has you down. He will just keep pushing as hard as he can as long as the fight goes, basically. Bazukia is a technically well-rounded, like, boxer, wrestler type of fighter. He tends to back up early in fights. He's a little bit of a slow starter. As the fight goes on, he starts to put together combinations and such. He does have wrestling, actually, but he doesn't consistently use it, interestingly. His defense is a little bit anticlimactic because he doesn't really move his head at all. And he also doesn't have crazy knockout power, so he ends up having to fight a somewhat perfect fight to win, which is a problem for him because he doesn't have the best defense. Now, everyone's saying, like, oh, Bazookia sucks, Grodd is free. I don't fully agree with that because, technically speaking, skill for skill, Bazookia is actually the better fighter. Like, when he throws strikes, it is cleaner. His wrestling technique is cleaner. Everything he does is a little bit cleaner. That being said, Grodd is one of those guys who just does whatever it takes to win. And in a matchup like this, which is pretty close on paper, I do think that it probably will be the defining edge and take a close decision here. So I am going to take Grodd to win by decision, but I think it's going to be like a gritty fight where he's mixing in a lot of wrestling. They're going back and forth on the feet. Maybe they both get hurt at some point and such. Because Bazookia isn't as bad as people think. He just has slightly anticlimactic defense. And Grodd is just not technical at all. So yeah, I am going to take Grodd by decision. But I also feel like this may be the fight on the card that like potentially screws everyone who's putting parlays on it. Because I could see Bazookia also taking a close one just by being more technical. Anyways, moving on to Mark Vlogden, and it is not Josias Masasa. UFC still has not updated it. It is Nikolic, who is also debutant. So I'm not going to put up a poll for this because no one knows who Nikolic is. Starting with Vlogden. Vlogden's a very short kickboxer who has developed a style to deal with longer opponents. He constantly blasts kicks and will cut angles on the outside. He uses his speed to get into range to use his hands. He is pretty good at understanding if he has time for a single shot or a full combo, and he switches up his targets pretty consistently. He's definitely a dog, to say the least, and he is very durable. Nikolic is a heavy-handed boxer. He throws a few calf kicks at range, but he mainly just wants to sit down on heavy jabs. He will basically just get in the pocket and wing shots. He typically throws straight up from the hip, but he will put full power into everything he throws. He throws more single shots early, but as he gets his timing, he'll start throwing combinations, mainly like 1-2s into hooks, stuff like that. His only real defense is distance management because his hands are usually at his hips and he doesn't really move his head at all. This is a weird fight to pick because, again, Nikolic has fought a really low level of competition and has like a very polarizing style where when he gets finishes, they are brutal finishes, but he also has no defense, so it wouldn't be surprising to see him get brutally finished. That being said, he is pretty durable, which seems to be what saved him from that so far. The other thing that confuses me about this fight is the Vlogden that fought, what's his name? His last fight, I'm blanking on his name, but you guys know who I'm talking about, is not the same one who fought Martinetti on the Contender series. Vlogden was kicking Castaneda. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. He was kicking a lot less against Castaneda, and maybe it was because of the takedown threat, but I do feel like kicking is a big part of his game. So if it was because of the takedown threat that he stopped kicking, then I think he's going to perform a lot better in this matchup because he is going to be able to kick his way into range again. So I'm going to lean Vlogden here, just because I think the hands at the hip style is very risky against someone like Vlogden, and Vlogden is like, again, he's such a dog that it's hard to pick against him. Like, after nearly getting finished the entire round 3 against Castaneda, he was the one dogging it out and throwing like rolling thunders and nearly finishing Castaneda at the end of round 3. So I'm going to pick Vlogden by TKO, but we know so little about Nikolic that it's very hard to say. All right, moving on to Albon Elliott versus Michael Oliveira. I'll put up a poll for this, and some people know who Michael Oliveira is, but I'm stretching the poll-worthy fights here since there aren't many on this card. All right, poll is live. It's vlogged in the Dana White Contender Series Fight of the Year guy, Justin Gaethje. Yeah. Bazookia kind of looks like Masvidal from far away. Fair enough. Vlogden has potential. Castaneda was a tough debut. Yeah, Castaneda is not an easy fight to say the least. Oh my days, how fun, Elliot. Fair. How good is Barboza, the guy that knocked out Bazookia? It's hard to say because he is to an extent a power merchant. I would have to review the tape to really give too much of an analysis, though. You're sacrificing open Elliot Fallon. Oliveira is a future champ. Might be a little bit of a stretch since we haven't seen much, but I get what you mean. You think Vlogden is on the juice? It's possible, but nothing seems absolutely crazy. Oracle, nobody knows who these guys are. I agree, but we still had to stretch things out a little bit. Who is this Oliveira? He had a good performance on Contender Series for question. I'm gonna hurt you. I'm so tired after this run. Your body will adapt to the cardio. Hey, Google Plus Survivor. Reading the last 5 wrong, thought Oban was in a 3-fight streak. Yeah, no, it's the opposite direction. I get what you mean, though. Doing good. Hope you're doing well, Oracle. Thank you. All right, I'll end the poll here at 52% for Elliot. I think a lot of people are just picking Elliot because it's the name they recognize. I'll get to that in a second, though. So starting with Elliot. Elliot is mainly a rangy point striker, even though he can grapple and has tried to grapple in his recent fights. He uses a lot of long jabs and overhands, and he'll use spinning back fists to try to maintain distance. He is fairly good at using over and underhooks in the clinch to try to control position, but we did see, of course, against Ko and against Mikhailov, his grappling got fraud checked pretty badly. He has no real power in his hands, so he has to fight pretty perfectly. He'll oftentimes win the minutes of the fight, but he's just not really talented enough, so he'll be punished in the moments, and that will lose him the fight. Oliveira is a rangy and powerful striker. Even though he pressures a lot, he really takes his time in terms of throwing. He starts out with a lot of jabs early to get his range. He starts to add the cross as well, and counters whenever he does get comfortable. His main defense is just fading out of range because he is so ridiculously long, so sometimes combinations can clip him if people are moving forwards. He is also very calf kick prone. So this is another one of these fights where Elliot is on paper the better fighter, but he is still going to die. He has to be pretty much perfect here. Oliveira doesn't because he has that one-shot knockout power. Elliot doesn't really have a way to get around it. Elliot's at a massive reach disadvantage here, and his whole game is using distance and speed. So he has no real way to get around the jab because he doesn't take his head off the center line. So he's just going to get picked apart by the jab and eventually just get TKO'd. So I'm going to pick Oliveira by TKO here, probably round 2, because I think it will take a little accumulation while he's getting his reads. All right, moving on to Ludovic Klein versus Tofik Musayev. I'll put a poll for this. All right, poll is live. Vlogging is fun, man. I hope he gets some wins. Yeah, I get what you mean. I agree. I thought Obama Elliott was a prospect. Why is he such a big underdog? He's just not a prospect anymore. 4 wins against Val's when it was so good, and the win aged very well too. Yeah, agreed. Oliveira reminds me of a less powerful and creative Promptos. Valid. Ludovic Klein Masterclass. Valid. Morales versus Amosov. I'd lean Morales. People's main events. Valid. Oliver's a scary dude. Yeah, he is. Worse than the mustache man. Agreed. I hate Tafik. He cheated to victory against Muhammad. Yeah, 100%. Did not realize Messiah was that old. Yeah, he is old. All right, I'll end the poll here at 88% for Klein. So, starting with Klein. Klein is a southpaw boxer who's added a lot to his game over time. Mainly, though, he wants to put combinations together in the pocket. His hands are very sharp, and he has no real movement wasted. He was a professional boxer, and you can tell. He has great 1-2s, check hooks, and pretty much anything else you could do with your hands. He mainly relies on distance management on the feet for defense, which I usually don't like alone, but he has such good distance management that it works for him. His takedown defense against anyone who's not Gamrot is quite solid because he just has good reaction time, but if he is down, he can struggle a little bit to get back up. Musayev is a power puncher who always chases quick finishes. He'll blast very tight overhand right hands constantly. If he has you against the fence, he'll just start brawling and get a little bit more focused on the left hook. He mixes in takedowns to change things up, but it's not his strong suit by any means. He has questionable fundamentals, he'll switch stances a lot, but chooses weird times to do so. He's also very submission prone on the ground. So, yeah, you guys know my opinion of Musayev. He's pretty terrible. I mean, He won the Bahamondes fight for two reasons. One, because he was following absolutely nonstop. Second, because Bahamondes hasn't realized what a sprawl is and decides that he only needs to chase submissions on his back instead of ever trying to get up. So yeah, if either of those two wasn't true, then Musayev would have gotten absolutely picked apart. And Klein has way better takedown defense than Bahamondes does. Like, Klein also ragdolled Bahamondes in the grappling. Klein also nearly knocked out Bahamondes on the feet. So I'm actually surprised that Klein isn't like -4 or 500 here, because what is the win path for Musayev here? I do think that sometimes in fights where his opponent just gets gun shy, Klein doesn't necessarily chase a finish because he's so distance management oriented and he wants his opponent to mess up. So I could see a reality here where Musayev gets super gun shy early and then just like coasts to losing a decision. But I am going to pick Klein by TKO. I think he's going to want the TKO. He knows this is a step down in competition. He should be able to find it. So yeah, Klein by TKO, but I wouldn't be shocked at the decision. All right, promo time. If you guys are betting on this event, then you are probably absolutely insane, which means you probably are going to fit in well with the community that's using what are, in my opinion, the best tools in the UFC betting space. The new algorithms are absolutely insane. You could see the slips here of long shots that people are winning and such. Not going to go over the pitch too long. A lot of you guys have heard it multiple times. But yeah, feel free to DM me with any questions or sign up with the link in the description. I may have forgotten to put it in the description, but the link is in my Instagram bio as well, or just ask at some point. All right, moving on to Vlasto Sepo versus Gilbert Urbina. So, this is another one of those fights on this card. I'm going to start with Sepo. Sepo might be, skill for skill, the absolute worst fighter I have ever seen be signed to the UFC. And I wish I was exaggerating. I encourage you guys to watch tape of Sepo on the regional scene. The only thing this guy knows how to do is throw hooks at full power with zero setup and run forwards. He will face tank strikes. He will not throw a single straight punch. He doesn't know how to sprawl anything. He literally will just wing hooks until his opponent goes down or he does. Even Jose de Medina. Yes, Jose Medina is infinitely more skilled than this guy is. I wish I was joking. And he could still win this fight, right? Don't get me wrong. Urbina is chinny, is not the brightest fight IQ wise, and is like the perfect person to give him to try to get the highlight of someone who he could beat. Sepo is still garbage, like utter garbage. I really like you guys need to see how bad it is. Like, let me find the link of Sepo's. I don't think I could show it here, unfortunately, because YouTube is going to get mad. But I can drop the link just so you guys can see how bad this is. Where I think I have it somewhere. Actually, someone who's in the Discord, if you could just grab it so I don't spend too much time trying to find it. If you guys can't post a link here, just like DM it to me on Discord or something, and I will send it here. But okay, I'll go over Urbina now. So Urbina is a grappler who decided that he was a striker for some reason. On the feet, his best punch is his check left hook. He will throw out a lot of teeps and knees in the clinch. If he enters with a punch, it's usually a straight right. His defense is not good, to say the least, because his footwork is very stiff. When he shoots, it's mainly on a double leg. If he can get you down, he will quickly pass towards mount or the back. He will try to lock up submissions or ground and pound to a finish from there. Let me see if someone has sent me the link. Okay, no one sent me the link yet, so I am actually going to spend the time to find it. Like, it is this bad that you guys need to see it. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. I definitely killed the retention of the stream just to post that, but it was worth it. I don't care. All right. In the meantime. Oh, I didn't pick a winner, did I, right? Okay, as much as I hate to pick Gilbert Urbina, I have to. Will he find a way to get himself chins? He'll probably manage. It's Gilbert Urbina. I'm going to pick Urbina by submission. If he has 2 brain cells he can rub together and just shoots a takedown immediately, Seppo can't defend takedowns for his life. I think that Urbina could get him down and sub him. I also wouldn't even be shocked if Urbina could, like, catch him on the feet. But watch Urbina just trade hooks and get flatlines. But yeah, official pick will be Urbina by submission. All right, moving on to Dusko Todorovic versus Robert Valentin. So, starting with Todorovic. Todorovic is a grappler who thrives with top control. On the feet, he keeps things pretty simple and tries to just pressure and work with jabs and 1-2s. He will throw out a lot of kicks, though, to try to set up his takedowns and such. When he gets into the clinch, he'll try to just either fatigue his opponent or work to the takedown from there. Usually, he gets his takedowns from the double leg. His biggest issue is that on the feet, most of his defense is like micro head movements, which like kind of works until it doesn't, because unless you're incredibly talented, you can't really do it for that long. On the ground, he generally wants to ground the pound to open up a submission. Valentin is a wild finisher who's dangerous from all positions. On the feet, he looks to land big overhands or elbows. He will blast calf kicks regardless of it's on the inside or outside. He has no real defense from anywhere, though, including 4 takedowns. On the ground, he will constantly scramble and threaten submissions, and he's pretty comfortable shooting any type of takedown. Hard fight to pick, mainly just because they're both, at least they're entertaining. Let's just say that. I'm thankful for that, this card. I'm going to pick Valentin by TKO, but I have no idea because he's also the type of fighter who will find himself mounted by Dusko in who knows what way. But yeah, I'm going to pick Valentin by TKO because I think that's the logical pick. Moving on. Alexander Rakic versus Marcin Tybura. I'll put up a poll for this one. All right, poll is live. Dusko main card fight in the big 2026 might be worse than the name I cannot say on YouTube. Yes, I agree. All right, Rakic is starting at 86%. Rakic has to KO him right. Head kick, I'll get to that. My glorious king will retire the Chick-like master. You have a way with words. This card is full under fight time. These will never reach the judges. I get what you mean, yeah. Seppo or Finney? Honestly, Finney. I burned masterclass incoming, fair enough. 87% for Rakic so far. Oh, down to 84%. Seppo versus Urbina and Todorovic versus Valentin are above Ludovic Klein on this card. Yeah, it's so wild. Like, what did Seppo do to... I don't get it. Alright, I'll end the poll here at 85% for Rakic. Alright, starting with Tybura. Tybura is well-rounded, but he's a very clearly aging fighter. On the feet, he'll tend to move around and throw 1 or 2 strikes at a time. He throws a lot of singular kicks, lunging overhands, etc. Occasionally, he'll put together a slightly longer combo with like 2 punches and a kick chained together and such. When he shoots, it's mainly on the double leg. He's willing to just grind on the double for multiple minutes until he gets it if needs be. On the ground, he'll land heavy ground and pound as well as, of course, go for the submission if it does open up. Moving on to Rakic. Rakic is a dynamic and very fast striker. He blasts a lot of kicks, and he's best known for the leg kicks, but he will target all targets. He mainly throws 1-2s, but he will mix in other combos on the feet as well. He does a good job at chaining together punches and kicks, which is how he got his biggest highlight reel knockout. Sometimes he can project his entries, though, which makes him easier to counter. Defensively, he tries to use distance management, but raises his high guard if he can't get out of the way in time. He does have good blast double legs and very solid takedown defense. Rakic moving to heavyweight is genuinely exciting because even though I never rated him as a light heavyweight, he's going to be one of the most, if not the most athletic heavyweights on the roster. Because if you look at his build, moving up to heavyweight, he's posted a few pictures on Instagram. He's as ripped at heavyweight as he was at light heavyweight. He actually might be more so because now he could put on more muscle. So he's a legitimate heavyweight. He's not a blob. And that's going to do very well in this current division, especially with his ability to snap up high kicks and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he's going to knock out Tybura very easily. I'm actually thinking he's probably going to have power in his hands now as well. If not, he could find the high kick, but he could probably just starch Tybura with a 1-2, with the amount of healthy weight that he's putting on in this move. So yeah, Rakic by round 1 TKO. He should make this look easy, and I hope he does because we need someone like him at heavyweight where we can actually say okay, he's a proper heavyweight, not a middleweight with 200 pounds of fat added on. All right, moving on to Jan Blachowicz versus Navajo Sterling. I'll put up the poll for this. Poll is live. Imagine Rakic versus Volkov at heavyweight. That's such a sick fight. I agree, yeah, that'd be fun. Watch Tybura power jab and knock him out. That would be hysterical. But wake up, Fortune. 100%. 58% for Jan right now, interestingly, because he is a massive underdog. I never thought I'd see Sterling be a huge favorite against Jan. I know what you mean, yeah. All right. I will end the poll here at 51% for Jan. Quite literally. All right, so starting with Jan, he is a striker, but he's a lot more well-rounded than people realize. He does a lot of good work with kicks, and he might actually have the pound-for-pound strongest kicks in the UFC, which is weird to say, but his kicks do a disproportionate amount of damage. He can be taken down because he does plants. He throws in combinations besides for his counters. You can pick at him from the outside if you can avoid the explosions, though. On the ground, he tends to just hold guard. He used to be a bit more dynamic of a grappler, but he's kind of reduced that over time. If he does get you down, though, he will look for submissions much more than he will ground and pound. Sterling is a volume kickboxer. He's relatively patient, has a diverse skill set. He throws jabs and assorted kicks on the outside. He's good at mixing up targets, and he goes to the body more often than most fighters do. He uses a lot of head movement mid-combination to set up his strikes, so he maintains pretty good defense even during longer combinations. He does have his own wrestling despite being a kickboxer, but he's mainly just going to reach down and try to use his strength and then shoot a technical double leg or something like that. He's on the very slow twitch side and he doesn't really have any power, but he is very strong and does have solid cardio. So this is a tough fight to predict because if this was Jan 5 years ago, it's very clearly Jan. Now though, after many surgeries, slowing down, looking worse fight after fight, it's a lot harder to call. And what worries me is that we haven't really been seeing Jan's counter game. And Jan's counter game is what made him so effective because he would make opponents scared to throw, and that would just let him pick them apart with the kicks and such, and then more comfortably blitz into range. So it is worrying that it seems like his timing is fading and that he's not having the same opportunities there. Now, that being said, Sterling gets hit by a lot of calf kicks. I was watching back and it was kind of surprising how many he was getting hit by. It does make sense, I guess, because he is so low twitch, so he's not reactive in terms of defending them. That's tough against Jan, though. Now, I'm not positive that Jan is going to kick the same way that he used to, but since I haven't seen otherwise for now, I'm going to assume yes. So I think that Jan can do enough damage with his kicks at range to take a decision here. But there's a lot of ways he could lose this. if he gets taken down, because Sterling is probably going to try to go to the wrestling, I could see Jan just not getting up for the rest of the round. Also, I mean, Jan could just get picked at by range, even though Sterling is slow, because Jan is not really sitting on the counters anymore. It's a very, very narrow lean to Jan by decision, but it's a very close fight, and this feels like it has 29-28 written all over it. All right, moving on to the somehow main event of Uroš Medić versus Daniel Rodriguez. I'll put a poll for this. All right, poll is live. People forget Manyan was the first disciple of the head first guitar rush DDP, just perfected it valid. He throws jabs and kicks on the outside. Sounds like is he not gonna fly fair? I don't understand the number 4 ranking. It's automated rankings. I mean, that's what my system thinks it is, but it's not how I would rank it personally. Medić fly flatline, but he's low-key chinny. I mean, true, he is definitely chinny. Oracle, please explain the Oracle rankings, because how is that guy light heavyweight and you're saying he loses? So I don't make the rankings, right? I have a system that makes it, and the system is based off of basically, how do I explain this? It takes into account who should beat who at this point. Let's put it that way. That being said, it's obviously not perfect for a variety of reasons. Curious where Solo on Damien's a striker looks to solid technical striking with nightmare power to me. He just doesn't have good entries is the problem. If he did, it would make things a lot easier. Urod is 40? Yeah, he's old. All right, gonna end the poll here at 88% for Medić. All right, so starting with Medić. Medić is a kickboxer with very fast hands. He move a lot on the outside before he explodes forwards. If people wrestle a lot, he adapts to try to time the uppercut. He throws teeps to get his range and attack the body. His defense moving backwards is absolute garbage though, but he can throw quick counters if you do mess up. His resets are also very slow. It is the worst part of his skill set, because when he enters, he is using his speed to the maximum. So if you are able to evade, you have a solid window where you can put him out cold very easily. He gets away with, honestly, a lot of questionable fundamentals just by being stupidly fast. D-Rod is a kickboxer who has a deceptive amount of power. He sticks to fundamentals. He does literally nothing flashy ever. He will work with the basic 1-2 a lot of the fight, then he'll blitz with hooks and time counter hooks as well. When he blitzes, he tends to throw from the hips, so he's very open to counters as he is throwing. He tends to slow down later into fights. He keeps both like some high guard, some distance management, combination of both styles there. He does have reasonable reaction time on takedown defense, but past like round 1 and especially past round 2, his takedown defense gets much, much worse. Picking Medić is tough because there's always like the risk he finds a way to get himself chinned. But D-Rod should be too slow at this age, and I think that Medić is going to go for the quick finish. Obviously, like this is Medic's time to shine. He knows he needs to put on a show, make this as impressive as possible. I think he's just going to go for it immediately, and I think he will probably find it immediately. So I am going to pick Medić by TKO, probably TKO round 1 as well. Yeah, I think it's simple as that. Like D-Rod is not as bad as people make him out to be honest. Like he has some pretty good boxing fundamentals, but especially at this age, I don't think he's fast enough for this matchup. If D-Rod wins this, he secures number 2 spot in the welterweight GOAT conversation. Might need a little bit more to go, but perhaps. To be fair, the only time he's been KO'd was against a middleweight. In terms of Medić, I mean, yes, but he's gotten dropped by pretty much everyone. Like, what's his name? Oh god, I'm blanking on all the names today. But the guy that he spinning back fist KO'd in round 3 dropped him with like nothing in round 1. How does Medić do against Morales, Protez, Leon, and JDM? He'd probably beat Leon, because Leon has no power and can't really do anything if he gets swarmed. JDM and Morales, I think, would both put him out. Protez is a weird one just because he has the possibility of swarming him early. I would never guess D-Ron is the 40-year-old, too fair. Did Alexandre fight middleweight? Like Alexandre Topuria? I don't know. Oh yeah, Matthew Semelsberger, yeah. That's an Oliveira Arman too. I will get to that in a second. Urbino also draw match, yeah. Why do you say he can swarm Protez? Protez is a little bit of a slow starter, and he likes to back up a lot early and just get his reads. So there's a possibility Medić just like goes forwards and wing strikes and catches him. It's hard to say. What about, I know what you're talking about. I didn't even know that fight was on this card until like today. I don't have enough tape to break it down, honestly. Gerard being in prison didn't help, valid. Maybe Gerard fighting was the friends we made along the way, valid. Does this unbeat anyone in the feet at the top of welterweight? I don't think so. Alright, one final promo. If you guys are crazy enough to bet on this card, you probably will do well in my betting service, to say the least. We have what are, in my opinion, the best betting algorithms for UFC in the world. And you can see by the long shots here that users have been hitting, like just how well we've been doing over the last few weeks. It's been pretty crazy. So, link, I think I need to edit the description because I actually don't think the link is in the description. But link is in my Instagram bio. And feel free to DM me with questions as well. You stream the Serbia card, please. The streets have been waiting for years. What time is the Serbia card? I actually forgot that it might be a different time zone. Let's see. Starts at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. I'm probably not going to stream it there, honestly. But we'll see. Why don't you do live streams during cards? I have considered it. It was before it was more of a technical issue in the sense of syncing because the pre-Paramount everyone was really desynced. Now it's a little closer, even though people are somewhat off. That being said, it's also just like I don't know how perfectly to do it. I guess I could just commentate the entire thing in a sense. Recap for last week's card. Good point. I will do that. Rakic or Jamal Hill physique. Little bit different. Thoughts on Lionheart's domestic violence charges? I don't know anything about them yet, besides it being funny that Bogdan Guskov lost 2 fights in a week. Would you consider doing breakdowns for Dana White's Consider series? I'm excited. I do it in the betting service. I probably won't do it on YouTube, though, just because the time requirement. I just want your analysis live, not for the bets. Fair enough. Man, Carol can be co-host. Good idea. I think YouTube would ban me within 5 minutes. What's up with DDP not being able to finish Usman? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I didn't think it was a great performance, not gonna lie. Alright, I'll go quickly through the breakdown of last week's fight. So starting with Cody Gibson versus Abdul Hussein. I think you guys saw what I meant about Hussein being kind of terrible. After watching that, even though I picked Hussein and was correct evidently, I think that with a full camp, Cody Gibson would have 30-27'd him. Like, Hussein was having no success until Cody gassed himself out chasing the finish, and he wouldn't have gassed himself out with a full camp. So Hussein has no future. Like, I don't see it. Moving on to Nurullo Aliev versus Mike Davis. Okay, so two things are true. Yeah, Aliev is super boring, and like I think fans criticizing that is perfectly fine. But Mike Davis coping about it was just so ridiculous. Like, you're a fighter. It's your job to figure out how to deal with that. You had a training camp for the guy. Learn how to stuff a takedown. But what are we doing? Aliev or Aliev, whatever it is, I mean, he's good. He's boring. Not much else to say. I mean, yeah, he's one of those fighters you just bet on to win because you know he's going to do it without taking any risks. Davis should retire, honestly speaking. He's just like, I don't know, he just copes about his losses every single time. He's looked worse and worse, and he just doesn't do his job whatsoever. He's fun, he's skilled, but it's just a waste at this point. All right. Magomed Tchalov versus Brunson Hibero. This fight was like hysterical in a terrible way, of like another prospect manages to make themselves look awful against Hibero, and it's just funny. Yeah. Tchalov sucks. If you don't finish Hibero, you should just be cut instantly. That should be the rule here. So I'm not even going to do a technical breakdown of the fight. I just want to see Tchalov go back to the regional scene. Keep Hibero around, right? We need to keep Hibero around to figure out who needs to be immediately cut. He's a very good asset in that sense. Like, he's worth every penny that he's paid. All right, moving on to Ismail Bonfim versus Axel Sola. So, Bonfim decided he was going to try to cosplay a Dagestani without any of the skills whatsoever and get elbowed in the head 200 times. I have no idea what I watched, but cut Bonfim. I feel like Bonfim genuinely had a good chance if he just threw in the pocket, but I guess he thought otherwise because he decided he needed the takedown. I mean, good on Axel Sola, right? He did exactly what he needed to, so fair play. Nothing against him there. But yeah, cut Bonfim. If you're doing that, you can't be in the UFC. All right, moving on to Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Sam Patterson. Ponzinibbio did fought how he should. And if he was in his prime, he would have chinned Patterson instantly because he was a lot faster and a lot more powerful in his prime. But he is not in his prime, so even when he landed, he didn't have the same power, and he wasn't quite as accurate and such. Patterson has no head movement whatsoever. It is going to catch up with him soon as he fights like a half-reasonable striker. Respect for the toughness Ponzinibbio showed, Patterson also does not hit as hard as people think. I think he just beat up a few cans, and people thought that all of a sudden he was a power puncher. I still don't have very high hopes for Patterson, but it was a fun fight. It was a good showing for 40-year-old Ponzinibbio, to be honest. I just want them to give Ponzinibbio a good retirement fight. Like, give him a fight that is against another veteran. There are fights out there. All right, moving on to Dustin Jacoby versus Mohamed Said. First, great, spectacular performance of this card. Mohamed Said or Saidov, whatever he's calling himself now, is legit to say the absolute least. And I'm very glad, because now we have a light heavyweight who's actually a dynamic striker and is actually fun to watch. I'm glad I took the risk and just picked Said, because I had the feeling just watching him that he was well better than anyone was giving him credit for. He's so fluid. He puts combinations together so well, mixing together the kicks and stuff. I mean, he just completely shut down Jacoby with the difference in speed and fluidity and such. That was just spectacular. So good on Mohamed Said. He basically just styled on Jacoby, who's a borderline ranked opponent. I think Said is going to go pretty far in the division. I think he could at least get to top 5. He's not as young as I would like. I think he's 30, if I remember correctly. It didn't have the information when the graphic was made. But I'm in 3 years, could probably get to top 5 in that meantime. Is they're going to give him a step up after this, I'm sure. You quickly give a parlay for the UFC Belgrade card with guys you pick confidently. If you join the betting service, we have plenty of stuff in there right now. I've never seen Oracle glaze a fighter this much. You have definitely seen me glaze a fighter more than that. You have watched me glaze Fatima Klein for nearly 2 years now. I honestly think he could be champ with the state of light heavyweight. Very possible. Who would you take between Morales and Protez? I would probably lean Protez, but not confidently. All right. Walter Walker versus Thomas Peterson is hysterical because we still know absolutely nothing more about Walter Walker. I was hoping we were going to get some information on Walker this fight, like how his striking looked, how his offensive wrestling held up against a wrestler. But no, he just pulls guard and submits Peterson instantly. I mean, good on him, obviously, like, good performance. I just wish from an analysis perspective we saw a little bit more there. But yeah, there's nothing to analyze. I mean, he just went for the heel hook, transitioned well to the calf slicer, finished the fight from there. So, good. Yeah, good on him. Heavyweight sucks. He's going to go pretty far. I would like to see him strike, though. Bagayev versus Saigad Isgakmaev. I thought Isgakmaev won, but I was not surprised they gave it to Bagayev. I literally actually said in the Discord during this fight that Saigad should win, but Bagayev is going to win. Not a terribly interesting fight, except for round 3. Bagayev is usually more of a striker, but he did not want to strike with Saigad, to say the least. So yeah, we got a bunch of cage stalling and grappling with 0 damage whatsoever. And now we have Bagayev, I think he's in his mid-30s. He hasn't finished a fight in 10 years. And now we have to deal with him fighting in the UFC. Great matchmaking. We definitely needed this guy to debut. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. What does the UFC see in Bagayev? I have absolutely no idea. Saigad wanted to clinch for some reason. Yeah, very low fight IQ from Saigad also, to be fair. But both, just cut both fighters, please. All right, Kuniev versus Tyler Fortune. As much as I hate Kuniev for being on pretty much every anabolic on the planet, in the past, I mean, I don't know if he is now, obviously. Good performance. He's very unintelligent, to say the least, because he had Tyrell Fortune hurt to the body 5 times and decided he needed to go to the head immediately after every single time. So he just blundered finishing sequences time after time. But I mean, yeah, Kuniev is a good pocket boxer, as I was saying in the breakdown last week. He's dangerous unless you can chin him coming forwards, because you can't just trade with him in the pocket. He has very fast hands there. Kuniev low-key beats Josh Hockett. There's a solid chance. Ankalaev versus Kostan Yuri. I'd probably lean towards both beating them, but it's hard to say. A threat to what? McDonald's. Good statement. At least Fortune didn't tap to a calf slicer. Yeah, I mean, he had more dignity than that. John Pork versus Damian Ryczbeczki. Yeah, so I don't know, we were talking about this in the beginning, if Ryczbeczki just wasn't ready at all, or if the eye poke was that significant that it basically took away his ability to do anything. But it was a very bad showing from him. He just didn't throw much offense. What credit I can give to Pork, he did show a slightly more diverse striking game here than he did on Contender Series. He was a little less hook spam heavy and threw more straight punches, more elbows, etc. He still definitely has the defensive lapses, because whenever Damian did just throw a jab, it landed. So whenever he faces someone who's just going to stick to the fundamentals and keep moving forwards, I do think they're going to beat John Pork pretty easily. But until then, he can definitely style on the people that just can't keep up in that sense. I think Damian has potential, but it was a very bad first showing for him. So, yeah, I don't know if he was quite ready. I was saying this last time. I think he should have gotten 3 more fights in regional scene before he came here. That may be a problem for him coming forwards, but we'll see. Maybe he can make the step up. Yeah, Dulatov pulled out because he got his period, so. Urseg versus Ramazan Tamirov. Urseg is just so... So, I mean, this fight went exactly as we broke it down, right? Either Urseg is going to survive early and style on him later, or he's going to get flatlined in round 1. He got flatlined in round 1. And it looked like he was going to survive, because he survived most of the danger period, and then he, stopped being as disciplined and got caught. So, Urseg, it seemed had the right game plan, right? Just move around, stick to the jab, wear on Tamirov with takedown attempts. But then it seemed like when Tamirov started slowing down and Urseg started having a little bit more success with the striking, He got a little too arrogant, started trading a little too much, and got clipped. If he just kept shooting takedowns, I think he would have survived and won, but Usyk just does not have the discipline or the attributes to do well in the UFC. So I think that they will probably feed him to one more prospect and then cut him. Yeah, I think this is like pretty much the end for Usyk here. But yeah, Tamirov is not very good. Again, all he has is the overhand spam, but against someone like Usyk who refuses to move his head and refuses to stick to the game plan, it will be enough. Seeing people say Tamirov would beat Van, what do you think? Tamirov wouldn't survive like 2.5 minutes with Van. Usyk spams parries. Yeah, it's not good. All right, Ankalaev versus Guskov. What sucks about Ankalaev is he's not bad enough to lose, and he's so boring that no one wants to ever see him fight. Like, Ankalaev's last, like, actually good performance was against Kutalaba. Like, everything since then has either been controversial, super boring, or just, like, weirdly close for no reason. Like, he went to a close 29-28 with Krylov. He went to a close 29-28 with Rakic. And, like, yeah, Rakic has potential at heavyweight, not light heavyweight. Ankalaev finds a way of making every fight close and anticlimactic. It's so bad. It's just... Yeah, I mean, Ankalaev, won every round. He won pretty much every minute of every round and eventually got the finish. But how boring can you be that your hometown fans that will glaze every fighter from their region and make every excuse in the book if you lose, we're booing you? Like, that is the worst performance someone has had in their hometown I've ever seen. Like, Ankalaev completely destroyed his career, and if he loses a single fight, I believe the UFC will cut him. Honestly, I wouldn't even be shocked if he gets cut off a win. But obviously, if he becomes champ, that's not possible. But it feels like what they're going to do now is feed him to Costa, because Costa is specifically good against that type of fighter. Costa could legitimately beat him over 5 rounds. Even easier over 3. If it's 3 rounds, I think Costa actually has a certain, somewhat significant advantage. Hopefully, Costa wins, or if Yuri fights him, Yuri wins. Because Ankalaev is so bad in the UFC. Guskov also, never fight. If you guys are fighters, right? If you guys ever take a fight, do not fight like Guskov. It is better to get knocked out in round 1 because you gave yourself a chance to win than do what Guskov did and give yourself 0 chance to win whatsoever. Because, yeah, Guskov was not going to win this fight. That's just the reality. He's nowhere near high enough level to fight Ankalaev, unfortunately. But if you wait for an opportunity that's never going to come, you have no chance of pulling the miracle upset. If you just go for it, try to swarm him, yeah, you probably get knocked out. But maybe you have like a 5-10% chance of knocking him out. So, yeah, I mean, embarrassing from both fighters because Guskov never went for it, even when he knew that he needed to. The opportunity wasn't just going to spawn out of nowhere. Embarrassing for Ankalaev for not finishing that a hell of a lot earlier because he didn't even try to. Urseg makes me feel like a constantly disappointed girlfriend. There. Counter-Striker versus Counter-Striker, recipe for disaster. This isn't just Counter-Striker versus Counter-Striker, though. It's like, Ankalaev is capable of fighting on the front foot. He's done it many times. He just doesn't want to take any risks whatsoever, and it's embarrassing. Like, you have to be willing to take risks as a fighter. Guskov, for sure, as well. Like, you can't play Counter-Striker against Ankalaev. It's not going to work. But, I don't know. I would not be complaining if they cut both of them. Guskov is more to blame for the specific fight. I agree and I disagree at the same time. I agree that Guskov is to blame, but I don't agree that Ankalaev does not have full blame because he could have just gone forwards, thrown anything, and finished the fight pretty much immediately. And he knew that. He just didn't want to take the 0.0% one chance that he got countered and put out. This fight was the first one I actually regretted watching. Valid. I like Ankalaev's skill set on paper. Yeah, I mean he's skilled. He's just a pain. I am not reading that, Remy. Who beats Islam at 170 and Ankalaev at 205? I think Costa could beat Ankalaev at 205. Islam 170 is a little bit more in the air. The more I think about it, the more Bonfim might actually be a really bad matchup for him. But I don't think he's ever going to fight Bonfim. And Durham watched this fight, he crashed his car. Oh god. Samira versus the top 7 of flyweight. He loses to all of them. How does Ankalaev versus Ulberg go? See, before this, I thought Ankalaev would comfortably beat Ulberg. I hate to say this, Ulberg would knock out Ankalaev. I don't like Ulberg at all, but he would knock out Ankalaev. Emazov versus Islam. I think Islam would just outstrike him, to be honest. More of an indication on light heavyweight that no one can pressure Ankalaev and beat him. Well, I wouldn't say no one can pressure Ankalaev and beat him. We saw Alex do it with absolute ease, but obviously if you put him against someone who really isn't like ranked quality, then that will happen. Bonfim very underrated. Yeah, agreed. How does Costa have an advantage in 3 rounds? Because Costa slows down. Over 3 rounds, he can just focus on winning rounds 1 and 2, give up round 3. He could take the fight there. Over 5 rounds, I'm a lot less comfortable with him needing to win rounds 1, 2, and 3. I think Morales could fluke it because of his size, even though I don't think it's that great. It's very possible. What about Roundtree? The problem with Roundtree is over 5 rounds, he's going to gas. Over 3, he'd have a chance, but I don't know. I don't have the highest opinion of Roundtree. Thoughts on Oliveira, Arman too. I still think Oliveira could pull it off. Why don't you rate Tamirov? Because all he has is overhand spam. He doesn't even set it up. He just spams it. I mean, he has a spinning back kick as well, but that's it. Spinning back kick and overhand spam. So I think Anthony Smith's charges came from enforcing his family to watch this fight. Valid. Tyra versus Tamirov. Yeah, Tyra should take him down and maul him. Why don't you think Islam? And why do you think Islam won't fight Bonfim? It seems like Islam's going to retire after this fight. Bonfim or Gary? I might have to lean Gary. Ankalaev is infuriating to watch. Valid. Smith lost his wife. Oh god. I'm annoyed that people's takeaway from the Saeed fight is that Jacoby didn't showed up and not that Saeed is good. Yeah, it's definitely ridiculous how people are looking at it because Saeed made Jacoby look not good. It wasn't that Jacoby isn't good. Thoughts on Jan versus Merab for 322? I'll have to look at more tape because I wanted to pick Merab again. I thought I was going to, but like so many factors are stacked against him now between the nose injury, the age, him not necessarily taking the proper time and surgeries to recover. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I think Oliveira pulls it off. Arman never fights. He's not even focused on MMA, and Charles has been more active and getting way better wins. Yeah, I agree with you. UFC needs to do Jan versus Yuri in Warsaw. This is like their last possible chance to do that before either guy retires. Valid. Sega's like, if Schnell and Corey Sandhagen fusion dance. Chinny is all hell and making the worst decisions in the pocket. Valid. I think it's interesting they're making Jan fight Merab at high altitude. That's a good advantage for Merab cardio-wise. Normally I'd say yes, but if Merab actually is not fixing his broken nose, I don't know if that's going to be the case. Prime Lionheart Smith versus Prime Lionheart Gushkov. Unfortunately, probably Smith. Who do you think wins, Merab that fought Jan the first time or Jan that fought Merab the second time? I would say Merab that fought Jan the first time. Song versus Umar. Umar wins a boring decision. Why do you dislike Ulberg? He's just insufferable as a person. Like every time he opens his mouth, I just hate him. People forget Van Lionsart's wife is crafty on the paint chase. Ursig makes me sad. Dude, would a 135 move help his chin? I know Sean, other strikers would kill him, but still. The problem isn't just his chin, though. It's really his defense. Like, you can't just eat overhands. Truthfully, could Fatima Klein beat any UFC MILF? I'm betting her against Bilal, not gonna lie. I mean, Bilal might be tough just because the size difference at that point. But are there some like 125ers she could be? Probably. What did Ulbrich say? I mean, I don't want to misquote him, but like you could just look at anything he's said. Any news on him is annoying. Thoughts on Rafa Garcia? Very underrated. I've been touting him for a while. Didn't Rob's nose get all red from wrestling match? Jan could bust it over just a few jabs. Yeah, I mean, because it broke badly, and he hasn't gotten repaired. First, like, low-key gets knocked out cold when he just walks in and spams overhands. Yeah, pretty much. How would you match up lightweight? Let me look at the rankings. So, you have to pull some BS because I don't know if Gaethje is going to fight again. I don't think he wants to risk losing because he's going to lose, right? There's like not a single person he could fight besides like a Patty rematch for whatever reason that he could win right now. If I had the choice though, I'd do the Topuria versus Gaethje rematch. I feel like that should happen because otherwise we might well end up in in a situation where like Oliveira or Holloway has the belt, while Topuria has wins over both of them. We're already in a tough situation because Oliveira and Holloway have wins over Gaethje. But anyway, so I would do Topuria versus Gaethje 2. I'm fine with the Oliveira versus Arman 2. I would do Holloway versus Rufi. I would do Patty versus the winner of Gamrot versus Salkfield. Moicano versus Nolan. And I would like to see Fiziev fight Ludovic Klein after he wins this. Ilya versus Patty first. I mean, we could, but then who are we going to have fight Gaethje? That's the issue. We can't give Arman a title shot off of doing nothing. If Oliveira is going to fight Arman, which I do think makes sense, then I don't really want to see Holloway fight Gaethje because Holloway just lost to Oliveira. Like, we could just call it a day and give Rufi the title shot, but it would be a little bit strange. Do you have high expectations of Pernas? I mean, I think he'll be top 10 comfortably. Do I think he goes beyond that? I'll have to see how he performs in the UFC first. BSD or Fiziev? Fiziev. You still think Ilya beats Islam? Yes. I doubt Gaethje's in a rush to fight again. Yeah, I honestly don't think he's going to fight again. Gaethje says Ilya doesn't deserve it because he knows he flew Toronto. Yeah, Gaethje knows he's not going to beat any of those fighters right now. How weak is Moreno that he couldn't call Dursak? He's just very washed, not going to lie, which I hate to say. But yeah, he's very washed. And take Fiziev to beat BSD? No, BSD to beat Fiziev. Maybe I reversed it, sorry. Moreno's never been that much a KO threat. There was a point at which he was starting to be. During the Figgy era, and when he TKO'd Kai Kara France as well. But yeah, after the Pantoja fight, when he really just started going full-blown washed, he wasn't anymore for sure. Prime Justin would break Ilya in 2 rounds max. I mean, a Prime Justin got mauled by pretty much anyone decent, so I don't think I agree there. How the hell is Moreno this washed at 32, man? It's just the number of wars he's been through. He took a lot of damage in the Figgy fights. fight years and regular years aren't the same. Yeah, exactly. Prime Justin fights differently than current Justin. I mean, I would say Prime Justin, quote unquote Prime Justin, would have a much worse chance against Ilya because quote unquote Prime Justin fought really stupidly. I don't think he's washed. His title is outdated and been figured out. I do think he's washed because the reaction time and the skill set just isn't the same it used to be. Like, he used to be a pretty dynamic boxer. Now all he does is just, like, spam, like, very looping overhands and hooks. Khabib and Dustin are better than Ilya. I mean, Khabib, you can argue. Dustin, nah. It's a wonder how Max isn't washed after the Volkan Ilya fights. I mean, maybe we'll find out he is, but who knows? Did you see the Anthony Joshua fight? I did not. I just heard he got dropped pretty badly twice. Was watching back Pantoja's title fights, and I thought his performances were more lackluster than I remember. That's on the Van rematch. I'm going to pick Van. Very likely. But there's a world where Pantoja just camps half guard the entire fight. How many years left do you see in Holloway and Oliveira? I see more in Oliveira than Holloway, to be honest, despite Holloway being younger, because Oliveira's style has become less dependent on taking damage. Holloway's style, while he has kind of become a little less dependent on taking damage, still absorbs a ton of damage every fight. Dustin's a very interesting style matchup for Ilya, but not overall as good a fighter whatsoever. Yeah, I agree. Prime stuffed his own takedown versus Eddie Justin. Yeah, I agree. Pantoja's a fighter I genuinely hate. Why? Would you rather watch another Ankalaev fight or listen to an Ian Gary talk in general? And no, you can't shoot yourself. That's a tough one. Maybe Ian Gary, because I can at least laugh at him. Forgot Kai Kara-France existed. Fair. Do you think there's a chance Topuria goes in a downfall if he keeps fighting like he did in the Justin fight? Well, if he keeps fighting like he did in the Justin fight, 100% he will, but I don't think he will do that. Syria versus Borjas early prediction. Syria sub. Jim Miller is still fighting. Charles has a few good years yet. I mean, to be fair, Miller just keeps going, like, through wins and losses. I don't think Charles is going to do that because he doesn't really have a reason to. Ian Gary's more likable than Islam Fair. Ankalaev versus Khalil would have been fun. More fun than this, yeah. GSP versus Islam at 170. I'd take GSP there. Like Pantoja has better scrambles and back takes than Tyra, so considering how easy Van was taking down, see Pantoja's slight favorite. I'm not sure if he necessarily has better back takes, but what I think Pantoja does well is he doesn't get overeager for things. Oliveira loses to Arman by knockout. Speed advantage is too much, not gonna lie. I mean, it's mildly possible, but I wouldn't say Arman has much of a speed advantage. Prime Tony or Max? Prime Tony. Topuria is either coming back stronger than ever and becomes the GOAT or going on a Tony Ferguson type downfall. Fair. Hypothetical matchup, Korea versus Syria. Syria should win pretty easily. Annoying versus, like, actually horrible person. Valid. I think it's confirmed that Lopez is moving up. If that's the case, he's going to have a rough time at 155, in my opinion, because he's so dependent on taking damage now. Ian Gary versus GSP is more interesting than Islam versus GSP. To some extent, yeah. Did you pick Armin or Charles? I picked Charles. All right, guys. I will probably wrap it up here. One more time, if you guys are betting on this event, do consider joining the betting service. I'll add the link in the description soon. And always feel free to DM me on Instagram with questions. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed the event if you're watching. Please like the stream if you haven't already. And have a good night, everyone. I will see you guys next time.